Okay, I think we made it. I think we got in here. And who is first? This is always like the funnest game ever. Let's see. I got to scroll up for a minute. Let's see. Who is it? DJ. DJ's first. John and Jen. Miss Lily Blade. Good to see you. Hello. Hi, Skydra Diana. Good to see you too. Happy Saturday. Much love to you, our beloved KK. Good to see you guys. Thanks for showing up.
Yes, absolutely. Please do like, as John and Jen and Kristen are talking about. Like, share, subscribe, guys. Hype if you're able to. Jen, we're wondering, let's see. Oh, no.
Because it's both Zeno and Jen.
There's like, what is that? Do you guys see this? Look at Zeno. Hey, ho. And then what do you see? Are those Chinese characters? Because yeah, we had our friend from Nebraska said congratulations on the chickens in a text to Cindy, and it came out in Chinese. I will tell you guys right off the bat, we've already been handed off to the new control system. And this is probably going to hinder the number of people listening. But yeah, again, the power's going to China. At least that is the plan when we look at the globalist plan. So yeah, it's very weird, but there's so many signs, and we've had these signs for a very long time. I had gotten messages in Chinese. I had to ask David Devine to have his wife translate for me. I couldn't recognize. I didn't know what Mandarin was saying.
You don't see it in the chat. I don't know. I'm going to take a picture and I'll send it to a couple of you guys so you see. Okay. Hold on. I'm just going to send it text to him. So go back up so I can get a picture. This is weird. Okay.
So it's right above.
Right there.
John and Jen too. There's I think it's a Chinese character.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, again, when all is said and done, they've telegraphed what they're planning, and they are planning ultimately, I think, to divide up the U.S. and have some of us, if not a big part, under Chinese control. This is part of, this isn't the whole purpose of this video. We got a lot of other stuff to cover. Oh my God, so much stuff. I just said to Cindy, let's just go live, because we could cover way more stuff live than just, in a video.
Yeah, it's really weird. I just sent that to some of you guys. I guess it's not showing up on your side, but we can see it from this side. And that was really weird, Yeah, Mike can take a screenshot because it's just so weird. When my friend texted me, she's like, oh, what cute chickens. And then right underneath that, it was all written out in Chinese. Yeah. Right? You see it on our screen, but it's not on mine. Yeah, and then Catch Many has one too. You've been stamped. What do you guys think? You think, I don't know, what are they marking us out or something? But it's very odd, and it's coming up more and more and more. So it's like, what are they prepping us for? The
handoff. That's what they're prepping us for. It's a handoff. So again, guys, as always, do like, share, subscribe, hype if you're able to. If you haven't checked out evolutionaryenergyarts.com, please do. Learn more about us. You could read some of the testimonials. We have worked on thousands of people, energy work-wise. Thousands of people in more than one decade, literally, everywhere but Antarctica. So yeah, typically we try to schedule at the most 20 or 25 sessions a week, because it is kind of tiring to do the energy work. And we also do Vedic astrology. We do life coaching as well. We could help you with whatever it is you guys want help with. And man, it's such a beautiful blessing to meet more and more of you guys and to have these sessions where we could really learn more about you guys, and you could learn more about us. And, we just appreciate it. And we also absolutely love it. It's great getting to know you guys. We had another wonderful person today, a newer member of the family, just a beautiful soul. So this is what I was telling Cindy. Most people are good. I really do not believe that most people have dark ideas, dark tendencies. We all have different things. It depends on which wolf do you want to feed, according to that Native American proverb. I think that a large part of the world is on the ascension path. Maybe that's naive, but I think it is the case, because I think the energies are so dark out there from the system. All they ever pay attention to is the death and destruction and the darkness. That's all. Peace sells, but who's buying, right? That's that old song from Megadeth. We do want to thank everybody for their support on Patreon, and we have quite a bit of members on YouTube as well. And we see Stephen Burns right now. A comet right now is touching the sun. It's really close. C2 imagery is about 3 hours behind, meaning Comet C 2026 A1 maps is at perihelion. Will it survive? Will it reappear? Or will the sun consume it? Is it going to give off a big, massive CME that's going to come and bathe and saturate us in divine energy? Or is it going to be a nothing burger? I gotta say, I think it's going to survive. I think it's going to surprise. Maybe it won't, but we do have another. It's just like Star Wars. Oh, that kid Luke, he's our only hope. No, there's another. It's so fun. Yeah, when you look back at our history and everything they've told us in the movies. And before I forget, I just want to mention too, the one product that we've really partnered with big time is LifeWave. These are patches that were made for the military. They were made for soldiers under stress to keep them going without giving them any sort of narcotics or pharmaceuticals, i.e., this is natural. It's using light, your own light, literally, reflecting your own light back in your own body to trigger your stem cells to wake up and activate. And I've been doing this for several months now, and I got to tell you, oh my God, I do feel younger. I really do feel younger. I have been doing an insane amount of physical work, a lot of carpentry and stuff, a lot of digging, heavy work, as well as still maintaining an exercise routine that is daily, and doing all these videos and having sessions with clients. And my energy is great. I don't feel any worse off than when I was in my 30s. And the reality is, I think I'm way better than I was in my 30s. Way better. So, yeah, I'll be 61 in 2 months. But, yeah, I still feel 31.
It's a very supportive product to all the things, whatever you're doing now to help support yourself. And it was the X39 and the Salergize is what won these major awards for so many countries. I forgot exactly how many countries were in alignment to win these awards, and they won it. And it really has made a very positive difference to our routine that we already have in place, so it's extremely supportive. And just give it a minute, because it's a natural process, and it's going to take a little time, but you want to make sure you're drinking plenty of water. But it's a really good product, and we really appreciate it, and it's helped us a lot.
Yeah, and when you use our link, it does support us as well as give you guys a discount. So yeah, do check out LifeWave. It's the first thing you see on the info on every video. And they've been great people too. It's been really, really positive. So man, oh man. And I do want to say too, my own health is something that I prioritize. Obviously, if you don't have your health, what do you have, right? And we eat really clean. We eat super clean. We are such sticklers. We don't eat fast food. We don't eat sugar. We don't take in any simple sugars. A tiny bit of honey here and there, and tiny bit of agave from time to time. But otherwise, eat whole foods. Eat whole foods. If you do eat meat, know where it comes from. So much of it's contaminated. But again, focus on the veggies and whole foods. And what the heck is that? Is that Santa Claus about to land on their roof?
Well, of course it is. It's a Starfleet, everybody. My gosh.
Yeah, well, my gosh, we got exciting times. There's so much happening right now. This is in Brazil. This is Brazil. It's a suburban area, and that thing is just stationary, or those things, whatever they are.
Yeah, I mean, very interesting. Is it, or is it possible? Could it be a mountain with lights on it?
I don't think so, by the way everybody is looking, and they would know. I mean, they live there. This looks like a triangle over here, but it looks like there's all other sorts of things. It's, there's just so much going on, guys. It's crazy out there. Global food shock coming. This affects every nation. Yeah, they literally have a list of when your country's going to run out of energy. Another thing I'll share with you guys, we are not, millionaires, not even close. So everything counts with us. Every dollar counts. And we really do, we're frugal. And, we have just one vehicle for expenses. We don't have two cars. We're not a two-car family. We have a truck that's going to be 7+ years old, but it's doing well. But it eats a lot of gas. It's a truck. So we've been doing some research and trying to think of what do we do if there's, fuel shortages, because we live 7 miles away from town, in a very small town at that. So if we need to get into town and there's going to be shortages and rationing, the truck's not going to be the best option. But again, I don't want to increase expenses with a bunch of more insurance. I certainly don't want any car payments. The truck's paid off. Don't want any payments. So we were looking into quads, we were looking into side-by-sides, but it might do something like an off-road 250 or 300 dirt bike with saddlebags if we have to get into town in a quick way, because I really do think this is a long haul. I don't think that this is just going to be over. We have to realize they're going to have this in place. Here we are. We're in another lockdown. How did that happen? We're in a lockdown. And, you're going to have rationing, shortages. It's just what's coming. It's not, it's not hyperbole. It's not BS. It's coming.
Yeah, so we were just thinking a bike. It's a lot of miles in case, Mike can always just grab a backpack or whatever, and go in and get things if there's no gas. So we're rolling around our options and just trying to prepare as best as we can with the budget that we have, and doing the things. So it's definitely a really curious time, and it's a time to really do your best to take very good care of your body and be as clear as possible right now. But at the same time, you don't want to sit and live in fear. You definitely want to live your life. So that's so very important, and it does take some balanced, some time consideration. But yeah, things do look pretty chaotic. It's not like the sightings with all the drones and other whatever they are in the sky. That's not slowing down.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So, again, I wonder, have you guys noticed, what have you noticed as far as your shopping situation? When I've been going to the store, like the last trip, there was very little organic milk out there. I got like the last 2.5 gallons of organic milk. This is part of the bigger picture. We do have dried milk. We do have a lot of long-term supplies that for Cindy and I, we could make it last a year, maybe 2 years. And we have the ability to grow stuff. And now with the chickens, we should have an egg supply. And this is exactly what I've always known is coming. And I am really grateful and thankful that we live in a very simple single wide. It's just a single wide on 4 acres. And really, that was my original mindset, was something like that on 5 acres. Nothing extravagant, just, practical. And, it's again, we could see every little bit of this has been telegraphed, and it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody unless, again, you're just on that wheel and you haven't been paying attention because you're just too busy trying to, get ahead in a world that is devised so it's impossible to really get ahead. unless you succumb to the system. And again, of course, when you succumb to the system and become a partner with the system, oh, yeah, no, that's just never a choice I would ever entertain. And, way back when we made this channel in 2017, the Illuminati did reach out and tried to recruit, and we said no, and it's been a bumpy ride, but I'm very happy because I would say no time and time again. I would never say yes to the dark control system.
I think it's just important where you do spend your money. When we look at the death care system, they have no intentions of healing us. So when you do spend your money, spend it on things that are actually going to heal you, and that's what makes a difference. It's like, where are you going to put that energy flow? Because we're all stuck here with the money. That's what we have. So you can't just pretend it's not there or always assume that it's evil. It can be used for very good things. So I think it's more about what it's used for. And but then we're also stuck where all these millionaires and bazillionaires, and they have all this money and they just do whatever the heck they want. So what do us little guys do? We have to be careful. We have to be careful where we spend it and what our intentions are when we do spend the money, and just do our best to use it for other healing modalities that actually heal and help and make this world a little bit different. I don't see anything wrong with spending money on things that are more of a 5D consciousness, like going out and getting a massage, taking good care of yourself, or gifting others. Somebody else might need a energy session, stuff like that. That's where I think our soul would be focused in a good place if we just look to 5D situations and how we do spend that money. And, it's all energy.
Yeah, absolutely. And, of course, we haven't had massages in many, many years. Right. But yeah, Cindy's never had a vacation outside of the U.S. So we would love to see the world calm down and get to a place of peace. I think there's different periods that we're facing right now. Between now and the middle of 2028, I think, is the biggest, most intense piece. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's still going to be a little intense or flaring up again after that. Come 2032, it feels like there should be serious changes that are already in place. It's the case of, obviously, Agenda 21 turned into Agenda 2030, and we're on that path there. And they said it couldn't happen again, but yes, we find ourselves in a lockdown coming in from a completely different direction. Meanwhile, we have a M class, a 7.5 solar flare. This one's earth facing. Geomagnetic conditions remain elevated. So the sun is only going to pick up in intensity and strength. But the sun is that which changes consciousness. It gives us life. We couldn't exist here in these bodies without it. And the sun is the key to the DNA changes that are coming. And many people are having heightened sense of abilities. Their perceptive abilities are increasing. When we work on people now, energy-wise, almost everybody can feel the energy. Almost everybody can feel the energy. We had somebody that had gotten the idea for a session from her cousin, and the day before, I should say Friday, a day before we were having the session today, she was feeling the energy work transpiring and was feeling great already. This is the type of thing that people are going to understand more, how energy works, how our intent is helping to create our world. And, again, we cannot control all these things that these dark controllers are doing, but we can control our reaction to what they're doing.
Well, yeah, very important we control that reaction. And today does feel like a really odd day. I have energy, but I'm sore, and my mood is a little bit in between. So it does feel like there's something really iffy going on in the cosmos. And, astrologically speaking, April is not going to be an easy month. And that's going to be reflected in our bodies. Our bodies are going to feel everything. And sometimes that might be very difficult. But, in that, you pick out the difficult things, like what's the hardest thing, and know that you're growing out of something. You're growing out of something into something new. And that's a beautiful thing. It's mindset.
Yeah, Ben, everything was talking about living out of their car in the 80s. You really have had an interesting life, and thank you for sharing all this. Susan Donahue, we would love to go to Egypt with you, and I hope that's the case. In my ideal world, I see on the other side of all this, Cindy and I maybe being able to go and do these excursions with you guys, over in places like Egypt or Peru or maybe Anatolia in Turkey. Let's go explore some of the caves and stuff there. Let's go to like these different places, even locally. Like we could get together at get together at Sedona or Mount Shasta, and have outings and stuff. That's what I would love to do when we're on the other side of all this craziness. So I want to put that out there and help to manifest it. So we did get hit with a CME today. Right now the KP is not really elevated. We could see here, but I do think, as you can see here, we were close to a 7, then a 6, then a 5, and trickling on down. We haven't seen anything yet from the sun. With everything we've seen, we still haven't seen anything yet from the sun. There is so much more coming, but I don't fear anything from the sun. Not at all. The sun is the agent of transformation.
Yeah, speaking of the frequency change coming, it's ongoing, and we're going through it now, and we see that when we work on people and we see their reaction, and how much growth there's already in people, and how their energy bodies are really, really activated. And that's been very exciting to really witness that in real time, and it also, sometimes people are having a difficult time, and I might see it across the board with several other people all having the same symptoms, like maybe it's a tummy upset, maybe it's gurgling, maybe it's heartburn, maybe it's like sore joints. And then I see 6 or 7 or 8 other people going through the same experiences. And I think that's the beginnings of us understanding what it looks like to be in a collective and moving together.
Yeah, April's going to be a interesting month, to say the least, and it's underway. Here we are, 442026. This is definitely the earth shaking. This is about a 5.859, struck Afghanistan. It killed 8 people, injured a child. Tremors felt in Pakistan and India. The Polish psychic did see a bigger one. It sounded much worse than this, but maybe in the same area coming. Again, it's not always how big. It's, where and what the structures are like, and really what the ground is like underneath that particular area. Right now, the biggest quakes in the last 24 hours, the Philippines, you have a 6.0, 99.6 kilometers deep. And then Indonesia, we have a 5.9, 48.7 kilometers deep. Those are the largest ones that we have out right now. So the energy's still been over in this particular corridor. If we, do look, and like if I switch out, there's been, let's look at the significant, where are we? Here you go. These are the most significant. Again, we had 7.5, 7.4, 7.3, and then 6.6, and 6.5. It's been pretty busy, and yet it doesn't feel like it's over. In fact, it feels like all these are really kind of like preliminary. There's much more coming, and unfortunately, there's probably a lot more coming with wildfire season or arson season, whatever the case may be in each particular place. Crews are battling fast-growing wildfire in Southern California that's forcing people to evacuate. So, Springs Fire broke out about 11 a.m. Friday, and by the evening grown to about 6.5 square miles, caused the fire east of Moreno Valley in Riverside counties under investigation. Hundreds of people under evacuation orders. It's that sleepy cellular unit thing, as well as, again, the lights from the sky. This looks almost exactly like another tanker explosion we had not too long ago. The other one was around Cincinnati, but it just hits me as almost the same. It's like, I wonder if they're trying to target intersections of highways or something. Again, it could be a coincidence. This could have just been a simple accident. This is Grand Rapids, Michigan, by the way. Shut down traffic in both directions. I would expect to see, these type of things in a wartime scenario. You'll have spies and espionage, and you'll have sabotage. It's just par for the course when you're in a global war.
Yeah, this is like really messy, and I think it could very well get messier. Well, I feel that just the sabotage, like everyone else, it just feels like one person is gonna get back at the other person. They're just kind of going at it, poking each other in the eyeball, and it's not gonna feel good for everyone. Pretty soon we'll all be blind.
That's exactly what happens. Eye for an eye leaves everybody blind, and yet there's idiots in charge that do exactly that. U.S. President Donald Trump has stated that if Iran does not reopen the Strait of Hormuz within 48 hours, all hell will break loose upon them. Most likely after the 48-hour deadline expires, the U.S. will begin a large-scale campaign targeting their energy infrastructure, which is technically illegal. That's the thing, again, Geneva Convention, what? They don't pay attention to anything when it comes down to it. And so, it's interesting because Easter Sunday, right? Yeah. It really feels like Easter Sunday might be an explosive day.
Well, he's already said this is a holy war. This is all about religion, and I think they are going to use those religious dates to make their point or send particular messages. I mean, the whole point is to just get humanity all in this one very controllable situation. Like they're going to be the one thumb, and we're going to be under it. At least that's what they want. Every time I see something going on, I just look out and I think, well, what's the primary goal? And then you can usually get some idea of the direction they're going to go just by looking at their primary goal.
Yeah, exactly. Again, the big ones, Cascadia, San Andreas, New Madrid, and then the war expanding, Karg Island, different ports opening or closing the straits. It's just, it's a mess, and it just is so more than obvious. It doesn't have to be this way. It shouldn't be this way. In fact, if you were looking at things logically, you would say there's absolutely no logic in what they just did. But in the bigger scheme of things, what happens is here we are. We're heading into a lockdown that's different. This is going to be about, hey, there's just no resources available. There's not enough gas. People are going to have to, drive on alternate days or something. It's going to be that whole scenario that we know the globalists wanted to put in the first place, coming in because of war and shortages. So, if you can't get in one outcome from one angle, like people are not going to buy what they bought in 2020 anymore. Don't even try to sell that. Well, here you go. It's just another way to kind of get people over to the same outcome. Full-scale strikes underway, escalating fast after Iranian attacks on U.S. positions in Kuwait and Bahrain. U.S.-Israeli forces are now hitting targets across Iran. This is no longer contained. Direct retaliation at scale, etc., etc. Yeah, absolutely. It's escalating, and this is really what we expected. I don't see them backing down because again, they want to get to a certain place. They want to get to a state of mental, physical, and emotional exhaustion. When they get the world to that point, then the world may be more accepting of certain things that, we would say no to right away, right now.
Yeah, we'll just have to see how things go.
When you look at history and everything, this again, a look at Antarctica, very, very interesting. There's a face down there. It looks just like Enki's face. We did a video on that years ago. And when you remember World War II, what about the Nazis? Why did they go to Argentina? And then they had a base. There's pyramids down there. New Schwabenland, right? And then the rumors of them working with these Nordic Pleiadian-looking beings and also grays. What's really going on there? So this person right here, the rubber band man, here's where I'm at. I'm trying to figure out what the hell is in Antarctica. Germany explored land they call New Schwabenland from 38 to 39, or Swabia. Also, in 1939, Germany held a pro-American rally at Madison Square Garden. Right? 6 years after the 1933 Chicago World Fair, that, exhibited one of those horrible things that we don't want to talk about from biblical times that's still happening today. It involves that, Baal thing, also known as Moloch. So what is up with Antarctica? It is treated differently than any other place on the earth. How about before all the mess started happening, you had presidents, you had the Pope going down there, you had the head of the Eastern Orthodox Church going down there, John Kerry went down there, Obama went down there. Were they maybe meeting with some Anunnaki, perhaps? Could it possibly be that the Anunnaki never really left, that they're just simply right down there in Antarctica? How about the movie Contact? What's the first thing they see? Wait a minute, it's that Adolf Hitler guy. Yeah, in the movie Contact. Why? And then they have, again, the swastika, which is a distorted solar wheel, is what the swastika is. It's a distortion. They've twisted a solar wheel, which was a positive symbol, but that's what the dark side does. So in the movie Contact, the first message ever received from aliens was Hitler brandishing a Nazi symbol. That's weird. And then we get into the holy war type thing, because as Cindy said, Donald Trump invokes holy war as he gives the final Easter Monday ultimatum to Iran. He said on Truth Social, he reminded Iran of the deadline of 10 days to open up the Strait of Hormuz to shipping, saying they have 48 hours left before all hell will rain down on them, and declared glory be to God. But you gotta ask, which God are you talking about? It's not the creator of this universe. Which God are you talking about? Literally, if you're a biblical student, you understand there's Yahwist texts, there's Elohist texts, and then there's the ones that are attributed to the priestly caste, that literally their job is to always update the translations, quite literally. So, El is one of the words that was used for God. Yahweh, Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh is another word used for God. But you also have Elohim, which is in the plural. So the reality is, again, the monotheism came about much later because there was polytheism before monotheism. There is one source, so that's something not to be confused with this. Because what they did was they picked one name like Yahweh and said this is going to be it. We're just going to have one, so as to confuse. Because when you look at all the texts, they were really talking about beings like Enlil, Enki, Ninhursag, Ningishita, and all the different, what we say, Anunnaki gods. Again, it was a thing that was done on purpose to hide the fact that we're talking about a race of beings, a group of beings that are actually very diverse. But there was time in the past when the gods interacted with humans quite out in the open. Every culture talks about this. And then all of a sudden they left. And really, did they really leave, or did they just hide themselves? So humanity thought that we were actually in control of our own destiny, which we are when you look at the bigger picture, because again, it's up to us on how we're going to react to things.
Oh, our response is everything. There is a destiny. Everyone's, to me, in what I believe we all have a destiny. We're born for this one particular thing, but our freedom lies in how we reach that destiny. You get to decide like which car you're going to take. You get to decide which clothes you're going to wear. You get to decide what path you're going to take. But ultimately, if you were born here to be a healer, you're going to be a healer. So and if you don't choose to go into the healing areas of work, you may end up with so many illnesses that you learn all the healing modalities just trying to heal yourself. So to me, that's how it works, but I'm sure everyone's different.
We are not atheists, but we don't follow any one particular man-made human religion here. I guess if you had to say, what label would you describe yourself? I guess it would be panentheism, which basically means that there is a creator, there is a source of everything. It's in everything. It has to be. And yet it's also in that which is not. And, that's another way of looking at Shiva, which, literally can mean that which is not. Just, again, consciousness. Ultimately, it's all consciousness, exploring different creations of consciousness. So to get back to Germany, now, Germany preparing for all-out war by rehearsing mass evacuations. Over in Lithuania, Germany is rehearsing mass evacuations, preparation for what experts warn could be a Russian invasion by 2029. 2029? Seriously? That far off, you think? Again, sometimes things take longer than expected. Sometimes things come much quicker than expected. The NATO Quadriga 2026 exercise took place in Lithuania, simulated evacuating wounded soldiers from the country and transporting them to hospitals across Germany. Quadriga. What do you make of that word? Quadriga. Four, and I don't know what Riga stands for. It's probably, I guess it's got to be in German. I'm not sure what that translates to. But yeah, they're getting ready again for the Russian invasion in 2029. The Polish psychic believes that there's an agreement in place by Putin and Trump that will probably be broken by one side or the other, that we will hands off Ukraine in exchange for probably taking Greenland, maybe Canada, and also creating greater Israel in the Middle East if Russia stays out of it. I do think there is a good chance that Russia will end up literally breaking their bonds with China at some point, because if you really look and feel into it, it feels like it's a partnership of necessity, but not necessarily natural. Argentina to accept 300,000 Israelis and create a mini-state. Confidential report from Argentina's Secretariat of Strategic Coordination and Assistance in Emergencies has been leaked to the press, outlining a plan to receive 300,000 Israelis, establish a mini-country for Israelis in the burned parts of Patagonia, called Private Neighborhood Josue, Prophet of Israel. You remember the fires that people said it was Israeli citizens were starting in Patagonia? Remember Patagonia? The place with all the giants? You remember that? All the maps? By the way, this is Javier Milikowski, in case you don't know. And that's Benjamin Milikowski, in case you didn't know. Now you do.
There you go.
Yeah. Now people maybe understand this. Yeah, literally. Both of them changed names. They are, in my opinion, absolutely, they are at the least cousins. At the least.
I agree. There's something worse than that, but we'll call it cousins.
Kissing cousins, kissing demonic cousins. I don't know. Again, demonic and Damon. Damon was a beneficial nature spirit that somehow got turned into the word demon. Everything about this system takes and distorts, inverses everything. So, wait a minute. We had fires being started by Israeli citizens in Patagonia. Now we have a mini country going in for Israelis to evacuate to because things are getting pretty tough over there. Yeah, the Prophet of Israel, private neighborhood, 300,000. That's a large amount. The population of Israel, I'm going to take a peek at.
Yeah, I don't know any of this stuff. This is all Mike's. He's really good at it, taking like all kinds of information and pulling it together so that we get a better understanding here. But I think the point is our world is changing, but it's changing kind of sometimes subtly, sometimes quickly.
About 10 million people. Yeah, so that's a substantial amount of people. Wow, 7.77 million. Wow. Interesting. It's all very interesting. Interesting. And how about this? Argentina TV explodes today. This right here is on TV. This news anchor is giving the thought that the entire government of that little country, where, needs to face firing squads or something. No mercy whatsoever. The world must, bringing up Nuremberg, talking about rabies. Because, there's a law that's been put into effect where they can legally execute prisoners of war. Now, these prisoners of war might be people that have never shot a gun in their life, might not even thrown a rock in their life. So, what's happening is Ezekiel 38, which, again, it's part of the script. And Ezekiel 38 says that Yahweh guy, one of the Elohim, will put his hooks in and draw the world into attacking Israel, just so they could show off some alien technology and wipe out the military invasion that comes. So, this is just part of the script, guys.
I know, it's a messy one.
Yeah, Ezekiel 38, and since we have a good amount of people, we'll bring this up because it may be the first time you ever heard of this.
Yeah, I mean, there are certain parts that are really interesting and worth taking a second peek at, especially since we're in really pivotal times. Finding a little bit of information that gives us some general understanding is always nice.
So Ezekiel 38, biblical prophecy detailing a future coalition, nations led by their old biblical names from like 3,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago. Gog of the land of Magog, attacking a regathered and secure Israel in the latter years. The chapter describes Gog's GOG alliance, which includes Persia, Iran, right? Cush, Put, Gomer, and Beth Togarmah, advancing from the far north, which obviously Russia is in the far north, China as well, to seize, plunder, and destroy the land. The prophecy outlines that God will intervene to defeat this massive army through divine judgment, including earthquakes, pestilence, fire, and sulfur, causing the nations to recognize his holiness. While the text was written by the prophet Ezekiel, supposedly, because the thing is, too, these are all like pseudepigraphal, which means they're attributed to personages, historical personages that maybe never even really existed, is the bottom line. Like when you take Revelations literally being by the Apostle John, the most scholars will tell you they don't believe it was literally the Apostle John. It was somebody that was writing, attributing it to him, to give it authority. And this is part of that reality. Again, the Bible itself was put together 300 plus years after Yeshua actually walked the land. 300 years. We know how history could change in 20 years, 30 years. A generation, when you're talking all these multiple generations, you have to take everything with a grain of salt. So, again, a mega quake. It does say there would be a mega quake that some people have interpreted as being like a 9.5 or maybe even a 10 that literally can shake the whole foundations of the world. Some people have talked about this quake being so great that they're equating it with the 3 days of darkness and the literal changing of the spinning of the earth. Because the earth, if you've never heard of this, there is the line of thinking that the earth is spinning in the opposite direction that it should be spinning. So, like here in the United States, our weather patterns typically come from west to east because of the spin of the earth. If the earth was to reverse its spin, everything, all the weather patterns, everything would change. Could life survive that? That's a big question. It doesn't seem logical that life could survive that. Like you would have mega tsunamis. But at the same time, there is technology out there. We know about the Kardashev scale, which was done by a Russian scientist, talking about how as societies advance, they'll learn how to control the energy of the planet. They'll ultimately create Dyson spheres and utilize the entire energy of the sun for themselves, and perhaps even all the energy of the galaxy they would be able to harness with the right technology. Can the Earth actually reverse its spin? Ooh, that is an interesting thing. Could it literally be happening within a year? I don't know. There are some that believe that's the case.
I look at the word spin, and I think maybe we're looking at the meaning of the word spin wrong. Maybe it's a vortex, and maybe that type of energy is simply going to shift, and it's going to change us in a very big way, by reversing something like aging, because I don't feel that aging is a natural thing. It's when we come into this world, we're immediately moving into entropy. We start to fall apart. And when I do biofield tuning, what I do is syntropy. I bring everything together, and I put everything in a state of growth. But when we come here, we're in a state of, we're dying, basically. So I don't think everything should be in a state of decay. And we look at our systems that we have set up, and they're all created to manage decay. They're not created to embrace life, and they're not created for expansion. They're just managing things, and I don't think that's a natural way of life, and I don't think we have the understanding or the language to truly grasp what's happening. I feel we're reaching a threshold, I guess.
Oh, yeah. So, when we look at the dominant, weather patterns and the air patterns, what if the Earth started spinning the opposite way? I think, again, a lot of what's desert over here, say, Texas, New Mexico, etc., going on up, that would totally change. It would become very, very lush. Can we actually make it? Can people literally survive the change of the spin, the rotation of the Earth? I think people did, because I think it happened in the Younger Dryas period. I think, that's something else that happened. Remember, again, it's in the Bible that the sun stopped and stayed put. Well, I think that was when they brought the moon in to hold us in a unusual pattern. And the moon was brought in. Again, there's so many sources now confirming what has been given to us since ancient times, that there was a time before the moon. There was a time before the moon. Indigenous people around the world remember this. So yeah, I think Ezekiel 38 it looks like it's transpiring right now. We're actually watching Ezekiel 38 happen with our own eyes. Oh, by the way, did you ever see this? A 128-year-old Argentinian man claimed to be Hitler and disappeared. In 2017, news broke in the newsroom about an Argentine man who claimed to be Adolf Hitler. He came to Argentina in 1945 with a passport in the name of Hermann Gunterberg. Oh, could that actually have been him? 128 years old. Nobody could live that long. Well, if you look at both, again, the Hindu theory of the yugas, in a Bronze Age, we could live to 1,000 years old. In a Golden Age, we live indefinitely. It's just when we decide to leave the body that we actually leave the body. The body just restores itself. So obviously there's technology out there. If they were working with ETs, if the Nazis were truly working with ETs, could he have lived to 128? I think so. Absolutely. We've talked about the Qigong master that was documented in China living 256 years. It's in the official documentation of the Chinese government. So yeah, our reality is not what we've been sold. We've been sold a reality, again, that profits the control system. World leaders bypassed Trump to tackle the Strait of Hormuz crisis. Yeah, again, the death of NATO, this is all part of that bigger plan. And Macron and others, the UK, France, looking at what can we do to reopen the strait, as the US and Israel seem to be isolated against the rest of the world, because this is really creating such a havoc everywhere. But they know this is part of the plan, and they also know they have to do their part by selling it to their own people. U.S.-Iran war tax begins to hit American businesses and consumers. Yeah, when you think about it, this is going to drive everything through the roof. Some people are actually seeing $10 gas. California, there's some locations, $10.
California has always been rough. I'm so sorry, you guys. It's tough there.
Yeah, I see our brother Israel's in the house again. Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a bumpy road. Mortgage rates have dampened what they did with mortgage rates were stupid. Absolutely stupid. The Fed should have moved so many times, but the Fed didn't want to, because the Fed wants Vanguard and BlackRock and others like that to buy up all the houses, because otherwise they wouldn't be able to fulfill that you will own nothing and be happy that Klaus had given us. Klaus's prophecy. Yeah, again, what do you do when you have Trump that's leading us into this chaos, death, and destruction? He also put in some good things like, stopping the ability of BlackRock and Vanguard to buying up all the real estate, or at least putting in legislation to switch it. Was it just too little too late? Was he just trying to placate and get people to go along? Because we saw some of the things that RFK Jr. was doing looked very positive to us. That's our opinion. But is it just to kind of get you to go along and just nod and still give your support when they pulled the big thing out of the bag, the big rabbit out of the bag? And that's that we're going to be facing shortages like you've never seen in your life, an economic situation that may make the Great Depression look like an outlet, a little outing at the park.
Mm-hmm. Well, we got to reel everything in right now, I think.
Yes, absolutely. So we understand what's coming, and this really has got to touch you. This is somebody, again, in the military. Whenever anybody says I want to go in the military, I just always tell them, just think it through, because when you join the military, you do not have control over yourself or your body. You've sold yourself for whatever that term is, 4 years or whatever. Not only that, they could call you back up, and they've already put in legislation to be able to pull back more people in case of wartime emergency. And so, here, she's crying. She's, we don't want this war. We don't want this war. No. And I do think, when will World War III end? I think it'll end when you have a lot of revolutions going on inside the countries that are actually at war with each other. And a lot of prophecies say that. The prophecies, there's certain ones that say France and Russia, for instance, are both going to have internal revolutions again.
I think when you see someone and they're considering the military, it could so much be that they simply don't know what they want to do. So, encouraging your friend or loved one to figure out what you want to do, because maybe that's just an easy way of doing something with your life. And then basically they're going to shape and guide you. But what if you knew what you want to do first? So putting someone through and helping them understand, like, what are they going to be good at, the guidance, and, finding out their personality, and meeting that up with, all the other things in this world that there are to do, maybe helping them figure out what they want to do before they just go and go into the military, because, you're owned and you don't have any say on what goes into your body and where you go, and things like that. And that can be really, really devastating.
Yeah, and hey, there's our beloved Renee Bronner over in the greater San Fran area. She says maybe he's one of the boys from Brazil. So, yeah, and think about that. What's that all about? It's, again, cloning. Everything has been in front of our face the entire time. Why were the Nazis doing all these genetic experiments? Because they were helping, again, the Greys. They were helping these fallen Pleiadians, is what we call them. It's all that one plan. The abduction phenomenon is always about creating livestock, and that includes, from their perspective, us. They view us as livestock. That's truly what comes across when you look at the Sumerian texts. And why did they only translate 20% or so? The vast majority hasn't been translated. Why? Why are you holding back? Because, again, they don't want us knowing the whole story. A top Russian official confirms a deadly strike just breached the Bushehr nuclear plant's protection circuit. He warns catastrophic nuclear incident risk is skyrocketing. Mass evacuations to the border begin. The polar psychic seeing a lot of contamination from more than one area. And then you have, they're calling for King Charles and the monarchy to just, step down King Charles. You are all over the e-files. And in fact, a leaked email reveals King Charles' aide oversaw royal protection at the E-man's house. They are all corrupt, all the way to the top. No, well, the higher up you go, the more the corrupt they are. Truly, again, he is related to the true historical Dracula, who is also related to Elizabeth Bathory. And officially they don't like to connect that because she liked to bathe in a certain red substance. This is the problem. These are, up towards the top of that pyramid. They're certainly towards the top of the human side of the pyramid. There's a whole pyramid beyond that with the real power. Of course, there should be no monarchies, because the whole concept of monarchy comes from the Anunnaki. This comes from those that came from the sky, came down here, and took over our planet and gave us the dark control system that's been in place. They were the ones appointed, anointed. Again, monarchies, the royals, they're just simply the ones that the Anunnaki left to be in charge in their stead, at least appearance-wise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what about that painting that he did? I mean, that was just so horrible. All the red and the things that were in that painting were, it was unmistakable what's going on, and it's just kind of being thrown in our faces, and even more still.
Yeah, and then there's a ton of people now that are really nervous if they need any sort of medical operation or what have you. They're very concerned about donating, and I see the bloodmobile at the store every now and then. I can't help but think, are they just trying to take up a collection for these vampires?
You know, people are very concerned, and I've heard a lot of people say if you need to go into surgery, and blood could be an issue, to store your own blood, get your own blood and find a family member and do the things. But you really got to wonder about these collections, because I had a friend, and she was a really good friend, but she would go and donate blood, but of course she got paid to do that. And then what do they filter out, what questions do they ask, and how safe is that blood, and they pretty much don't do too much of they don't really look into someone's past too much before they just take that blood. So you gotta really be your own advocate to a really high degree.
Yeah, Jupiter Ascending, fun movie. We only watched it once. We'll have to watch it again at some time when we get caught up, hopefully. Yeah, and then this. I mean, this is a triangle, so yeah, I would say this is one of ours, and it may very well have reptilians and grays on there with, literally U.S. military soldiers, or it could be military from another country. But yeah, this is Curitiba in southern Brazil. Very typical triangular. So the triangles and the long cigar-shaped ones are usually, the dark hats.
Yeah, I mean, that one was very similar to what was kind of stuck to our truck for a minute there in Mississippi. It looked a lot like that. And then the beings that I saw on it were very much like the reptilian and human, or it just wasn't a nice thing. And we all ended up very sick after that. It was really, if you get around those and they have that radiation, you don't want to be exposed to those.
Now, this is, I think, from last night in Indonesia, something breaking apart space debris. With these, yeah, it could be rockets or something else coming back in. But it also literally could be warfare going on between ships up in the sky, because there's multiple factions involved in this. Do you sense?
Not at the moment.
Okay. So when you see something like this breaking up, yeah, certainly some sort of space debris, but that's a big category. Yeah, space debris. I know a lot of you guys probably know about the Black Knight satellite and the White Knight satellite. These are two objects that they say have been up in the skies since the Younger Dryas period. I do think they were probably put up there at that point in time. This is some interesting footage from China. Now, this could literally be a CCP drone or something, if you can make it out there. Now this reminds me more of my vision back in the 80s, when I first had a vision of us being watched by drones, and I didn't really know what drones were back in like 1983. Although this has got some unusual warbling or energetic activities, so I don't know, maybe it isn't so much a military drone. I don't know what that is.
I don't know. That really is a very interesting type of patterning that it's doing. It feels like it could go in and out of a portal. Yeah. Or it could be creating them, or maybe something.
Maybe the Greys. Maybe this is some of the Greys technology.
Yeah, it could very well be.
Yeah, it feels like it's creating a distortion field.
Feels chaotic.
Yeah, very chaotic. I don't know if it's good to be around that. Again, some of these energy fields, like what comes off of the TR3Bs, can be very deadly. This is a blast from the past that I had to share again. These puppies are barking at this thing, which looks like a ghostly figurine. There are either bugs or other orbs flying by real fast. This is from 2/23/2022. So this was like one day after the Pluto return of the U.S. Very, very curious. This weird.
I mean, it's moving, so it's so deliberate, and then
It's
I
just
think
the dogs, the way
the
the
dogs
dogs interact.
notice it. Yeah, the dogs are really upset about it, and there's something there, and it just feels so deliberate the way it moves. It's really weird, and those dogs know not
And
to follow
actually
it.
goes away from the dogs.
Yeah, the dogs don't follow it. So
Yeah, again, we are one channel on a radio. We're one channel. Keep turning the dial, there's a whole other channel. Go back the other way, there's another whole channel. That's why, there's so many different beings that are here having an experience on Earth beyond the ones we can see. This is West Virginia. It's a Mountaineer Power Plant, New Haven, West Virginia, August 9th, 2009. And you see these orbs over there. So, I mean, this has always been ongoing. Always. They've always been here. And now we're just finally humanity's awakening. It's not all just, nonsense. No, we've never been alone. The whole concept of us being alone, the only life out there, is really beyond there's no logic to that.
you look at those orbs, and it really feels like there's like a family element to it, like they're traveling together. And then when I look further into orbs, it feels so much like they can come and enjoy this earth and enjoy, the sights and enjoy the elements, but you really cannot participate in it as much. That's where it comes in, where you are born into the earth, then you can participate.
It's probably a family outing, and they're saying, "Oh, okay. See, these are called nuclear power plants. Yeah, this is what the humans have been tricked into doing, because they don't understand that their gods are just, again, ultra-terrestrials that have been manipulating them and getting them to, be slaves without letting them know that that the gods even exist, and they're simply ultra-terrestrials." Congress demands Department of War release 46 secret UFO videos. You're going to see some weird stuff. I thought we just did see some weird stuff. But yeah, members of Congress, including Anna Paulina Luna, have requested this. This was on Wednesday. So we'll see what they, let out. And we've seen a lot. I mean, who hasn't seen some of these videos? It's all coming out. I think if I had to peg, I would say I think we're going to see something definitive this year, and maybe towards the fall, towards harvest time. But we'll probably have a lot of other things going on at the same time.
I think we will too.
Absolutely. Disclosure. Meanwhile, you have WW3 going on. So let's roll back to that first thing we were talking about, the comets. 2 comets visible at the same time. We have Comet C2026A1 maps. It reaches its critical moment right now, April 4th. It's going to pass around the backside, and if it comes out and starts going away from the sun, it's going to be bright. And, it may be naked eye visible. We'll see. If it is, then I got to say it's probably the comet that Nostradamus saw. What else would that mean? Well, think about what you have. We shared the Nostradamus quatrains several times, and I do have photos of them too, talking about a huge Muslim invasion. This is Ezekiel 38. Taking place in the month of April, when a comet's passing, when there's drought and famine developing, and there's pestilence and war. It's all happening at the same time. Somebody gets assassinated, it appears to be the case, and all hell breaks loose with literally 100 countries being pulled in. And that could be just a little bit of allegory. It might be 79, maybe it's only 30 or 40, but just the symbolism of many countries all of a sudden getting pulled into this war. So you have C2025 R3 Pan-STARRS, which is going through the sky at the same period. Though more stable than its sun-grazing companion, Pan-STARRS is expected to put on a solid show through binoculars, but it's possible that it could also become naked eye visible. So again, Nostradamus and his famous quatrains of when the comet shall pass, or the comet shall run. And some had taken the running of the comet, meaning there's many comets. So at a period of time when we're seeing one comet after the other is when things are happening. So yeah, pretty exciting because there's a lot of comets out there.
Oh my gosh, it's really crazy right now.
It is. I mean, there's so much coming together that makes it feel like this is definitely the time that we've been waiting for. So it's going to be, we'll see what happens maybe later on tonight or tomorrow. If it does emerge and it's still intact, and if it is bright, and if it's like one of the big news news items out there, blurbs, whatever you want to call it. Man, exciting times on planet Earth.
I know, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. This is showing the passing of maps. So as we see it going behind, then it's going to come a little bit more relative to us. Yeah, I can't wait to see whether it's going to show itself or not. There you go. Pretty exciting. It's called a Kreutz Sungazer, discovered on January 13th, 2026. Perihelions now passing within 100,000 miles of the sun's surface, which is really close. It was also the farthest out Kreutz Sungazer ever discovered. So if it does make it, it can potentially be naked eye visible. Could be a -3, -4 magnitude, which would make it comparable to Venus, which after the sun, after the moon, Venus is the next brightest thing. So it could end up being the brightest thing other than the sun and the moon up in our sky.
I know, wouldn't that be exciting?
Yeah, it's been forever since, saw a comet. But we see a lot of these things. Here's another one. This is Caribbean. Another green meteor, fireball, comet, fallen angel. Just went and said hi to people on the cruise ship. Hope you're having a good trip.
I know, there's no accident there.
No, there's never any accident. That's part of the bigger picture. Sea lions surfing some big waves. Yeah, absolutely. That looks like it'd be a blast. Oh my God, it's been 10 years since I've seen the ocean. 10 years, and I'm an ocean person. 10 years. I can't wait to see the water again. We're not really that far away. They are having a lot of fun. Be a peacemaker out there. Be a peacemaker. We can spread peace. We don't have to live in this type of chaos and everything. It's just really the control system itself. Once they're gone, it could be heaven on earth in no time.
Whenever you do have an opportunity, just, sprinkle a little bit of peacefulness here and there. We definitely have plenty of chaos to play with. Let's do something different.
And as always, guys, we do appreciate your support. Do check out, again, our LifeWave link. And we invite you to Patreon and members here on YT, where we typically have special videos going up on a weekly basis, exclusives.
Okay, here we're going to do a ding, you guys. Think a happy thought. Here we go. Thank you so much. Source bless and namaste.
Loka samasta sukhi no bhavantu. Sanskrit means may all beings everywhere be happy and free, and may my thoughts, words, acts, and deeds contribute to the happiness and the freedom for all beings. Much love, guys. Source bless. Namaste.